Hello and welcome to Lord of the Board. My name is Sam and today we are going to be taking a look at Fractured Sky, the brand new game from Ivy Studios, the same company that brought you Moonrakers, Veiled Fate, Mythic Mischief, and now this is going to be their fourth title, and I am really interested and excited to give you guys a preview of this game today. Now, before we dive in any further, I do want to say that this is going to be a prototype copy of the deluxe edition of the game. So these components are going to look completely different if you are getting the retail edition. However, this is going to look somewhat what the deluxe edition is going to look like. Obviously, the magnets will be better, and there's definitely going to be some quality of life upgrades. But I just want to let you know that this is not going to be the final product of the game, and definitely check out the campaign page. There's going to be a link down below that will show all of the kind of final artwork and final pieces for the game. And once again, thank you so much to Ivy Studios for sponsoring this video today. I really do appreciate it. In Fractured Sky, the goal of the game is to have the most starfalls by the end of the 5th round. Every round, you're going to know one public location as to where a starfall will occur, but there's also going to be a certain number of hidden starfalls which you don't know where they are going to occur, and those are going to increase with each round. So as the rounds go, more and more starfalls are going to be falling on the Earth, more secret starfalls that you're going to have to kind of figure out where they are going. Now, like I said, you have your airships, and these airships are really cool. They might be tokens for you, or they might be these deluxe components with the magnets and all of that. But essentially, all you're doing is you're putting a airship out onto one of these islands. Now, like I said, the islands are one way to gain starfalls, but the other way to gain starfalls in this game is going to be the objective cards. And these are all hidden at the start of the game. You have all 5 of them laid out, and the objective cards are going to give ways to score starfalls based on certain different game elements, like maybe having the most buildings of a certain type, or maybe being in a certain island, or having the most resources. There's tons of different ones, and they're all going to be hidden at the beginning of the game, slowly being revealed throughout the game. So you know that you can get starfalls from the islands as well as from the hidden objective cards, but what I'm going to do is go over all of the actions in the game. This will teach you how to exactly get those starfalls, but also give you an idea of the game's flow. So the first and most common action is going to be placing one of your airships. Every player in the game is going to have 3 of these beautiful airships, and in the deluxe version, it has this awesome magnet where you can literally just clip onto a chip and put it out onto the board. Now, when you're placing this, you have to keep in mind that between your 3 airships that you eventually place out onto the board, you need to add up to 10. For example, you could do a 2-6-1, or a 4-5-1, or a 10 and 2 zeros. The reason why this matters is that at the end of a round, everybody's going to be revealing these numbers, and whoever has the most power on an island will actually get that starfall. So this actually does matter quite a bit. But that's basically it. You're just going to grab an airship, you're going to attach one of the tokens, and you're going to go ahead and place it on any island of your choosing. You might want to follow that public starfall that you know is going to be dropping, or you might be wanting to gamble and see if there is a hidden starfall at another island that you might be visiting. Now, the second action will be either to build a fortress or a market, and these buildings do 2 very different thing. Markets are basically just your resource generation. They're able to generate resources from the islands that they are connected to, as long as you have an airship that is on an adjacent island at the end of a round. Now, the other one that we have is going to be the fortresses. Now, these, when they're placed out, they actually add +1 power to every island that they are connected to. However, it only applies to islands where you actually have an airship placed. So if you have an airship with 0 strength, it actually now has 1 strength if that fortress is there kind of supporting that airship. It's honestly pretty simple. They have their costs literally on your player board, so you already know what these things cost. And when you're placing them, you can see these beautiful little arrows that show each island that that building will be adjacent to. All right, so the other action that you can do is basically the same as the last action, except that you can build a skimmer. Skimmers are kind of these little small mini ships. They're not considered airships, so they don't interact with the markets or the fortresses. They add +1 power to that island. However, they don't last from round to round. At the end of the round, they must be discarded. So once you build them, they're only going to help fight for that island that round, and that is all. All right, we only have 2 more actions and they work generally the exact same. So I think you're kind of getting an idea of how easy the actions are in this game and how quickly your turns might go by. But the next action that I want to talk about is going to be called scouting. It allows you to scout a hidden starfall. So you can actually look at one of the hidden starfalls and check where you know a starfall will appear. And if you want to collect a resource from that island, you have the resources of that island on the card right there, and you'd actually place your player token on that resource in the location where that hidden starfall was, and then you gain that resource. This does give a little bit of information as to what island it is. Like if you take a coin, then people know that the island that you just saw would have to have a coin in it. But it's also just a good way to get some extra resources throughout, and you'll know where that starfall is. And this isn't a memory game. You can always just check where that card is because your player token will denote whether you have looked at it this round or not. And last but not least, we have one that is basically an identical action to the scouting, but it is called peeking, and it takes any 2 resources, it doesn't matter which ones, in order to look at a hidden objective. And the cool thing about this is that since all of the hidden objectives are actually out at the beginning of the game, you can look at the 5th one or the 1st or 2nd one, and you can actually know what to plan for throughout the whole game if you would like to. It's all up to what the players want to do with that information. And just like scouting, you place your player token there, so it's not a memory game. You can just check that whenever you want as long as your token is still there. So players are going to be going around the table doing 1 action each at a time until the point at which every player has placed their 3rd airship. Then the end of round begins, and this is really where all of the action happens. The first thing that you're going to do is you're actually going to reveal all of the airship tokens and flip the leftmost hidden objective card and immediately score it. Then you're going to be revealing the hidden starfall cards and place starfall tokens on all of the designated islands on the board, including the public one. Now, from left to right on the board, you're going to be resolving all of these starfalls. You're going to look at the numbers on all of these airships. You're going to count up the power in each of these contested islands, one at a time. The player with the most power will win. Now, the thing about it, though, is that losing isn't always the worst thing. In fact, sometimes you might want to lose because the first player will always get the starfall. They must take the starfall. They get the victory point, essentially. But the second player actually gets both resources on that island, and the 3rd highest player will get 1 resource from the island. And the 4th doesn't get any resources or starfalls. Now, once we have resolved all of the island conflicts, we are actually going to be shuffling and returning all of the public starfall cards. Then we're also going to be shuffling all of the hidden starfall cards and be adding an additional face down hidden starfall card each round. So in the first round, there's going to be 1 hidden card, and by the end of the game, at the 5th round, there is going to be 5 hidden starfalls. So along with that public starfall, there's a potential of 6 starfall points here, which is kind of crazy. Now, you keep repeating that, you're going to be adding more hidden starfalls, there's going to be more places, more conflict, building more fortresses or more markets, getting more resources, peeking and looking around the board, and by the end of that 5th round, whoever has the most starfalls will win the game of Fractured Sky. There is definitely a lot of hidden information in this game. Players are going to be peeking at certain areas and other players won't have access to peek at those starfalls, and so a lot of bluffing is involved. There's going to be players that are going to be placing an airship on an island just to throw other players off, or you might have players that are going to be going to an island and other players just by deduction will follow another player to try and steal that starfall that they believe that other player knows is there. Fractured Sky kind of gives the feeling of not ever having enough resources for everything that you want to do on a player turn, and while at the same time not knowing where every single starfall is, and so you have to gamble sometimes in order to try and get more. Fractured Sky has this blend of very extremely easy to teach and simple mechanics, yet still has a lot of depth in what in the world should I do on my turn. You never have enough resources for everything. You almost always are feeling a little bit resource starved unless you go for a heavy resource strategy, in which case you are then feeling starfall starved, which sounds funny to say, but is exactly how it can feel. And so that is Fractured Sky. That is how it works. I hope that this preview of the game and a look at its components helped you to decide whether this game might be something for you. If you are interested in this campaign, definitely check out the link below. I will have that in the description. And if you guys like the content that I do here, please consider subscribing or liking. That definitely helps the channel get to where we want to go, and I would really appreciate that. But that is it for Fractured Sky. Let us go ahead and drop the beat.